This is a video purely dedicated to nightclubs and why, in my personal opinion, all men should just stay away from them. In a minute or two, I know you will agree with me. I think this entire thing is rigged and no men, wherever they live and whatever they do, should ever take part in it. I personally haven't been to any nightclub in the last 5 years. Nightclubs are plain ridiculous. Before entering a nightclub, there's this long line outside that you gotta wait for. Most of the time you get into the club and find out that it's empty. That's the idea of the promoters and the owners. This is to create the illusion of scarcity and to create the impression that the club is filled with people having a good time. I mean, you're not bound to think this way, or there are thousands of people in the club just dying to get in. That's why these lineups are there, to begin with, to create the illusion of artificial scarcity. Most of these clubs will have stories of the hot girls inside, and there will be mega lines to get in. People waste their entire weekends to get some action, and turn out the club inside is just so overwhelming. I was in Toronto once in Canada, and I got to tell you, man, it was made. In the club district, I saw thousands of girls just freezing in the cold. I mean, anything for that validation, right? Standing there in those mini skirts and high-inch heels in the winter, just freezing there. Let's analyze this, shall we? Let's talk about these high heels women wear to the club. There's actually a lot of research showing that women wearing high heels are perceived differently by men. It accentuates their legs, making them look thinner and more attractive. So much so that it changes a man's behavior towards her. That's why high heels are the choice of footwear in most club environments. There was a Huffington Post article on this exact matter. Even a French study on this matter shows that high heels do a better job of helping women get what they want. In a study, a woman stood on a passerby to complete a survey. When she was wearing flats, 25 out of the 60 men that approached her agreed to take the survey. Compare this to when she was wearing heels and 60% agreed to take her survey. This percentage went up to 82% when she wore 4-inch heels. This is clear proof that high heels hijack the male brain and subconsciously change our behavior and force us to be more helpful around women. That's why you need to be one who's part of the 20% of those who didn't give in to her tests. So the next time you see a woman in her high heels lined up outside of a club, that will make women more helpful in the club, whether she wants a free drink or to cover the food bill. Isn't this very ironic though? High heels are called a symbol of oppressive patriarchy, and yet women are hijacking our brains with this. How can they be considered oppressive at all when it's literally in favor of women? That's why women collect an entire set of high heels and shoes like that, because they are aware of their power over men. It's not only about the waste of money it is buying these shoes again and again. I think it's more about power and status with regard to clubbing. I remember many times I went to a woman wearing flats and pants with the club, and we weren't let in. Wearing heels also make bouncers let women in more. It makes women appear vulnerable outside of the club, and bouncers are more likely to let them in. The same goes for women who are dressed skimpily in those short clothes in minus weather. The bouncers simply look at them and let them in out of pity, because the women appear vulnerable. And women use that because what rational woman would go out in the freezing weather wearing that, unless it served her best interests? Similarly, the men are also more likely to let them in and buy them a drink to warm them up. All she needs to do is say she's cold or something, and 80% of the men in the room will be ready to run up to her and give her their coats and buy her a drink. Women are seducing men before they have even entered the club. When she's in there, she's playing on his sympathy. Personally, I started going to the gym pretty early, and I was always there looking at the girls, but I was a fool back then. There were all kinds of girls there, and maybe some were riding the carousel, but most were naive and young. I could have played the game a lot better, but instead, I chose to get myself into relationships. Once I was in my early 20s, the club lost its luster for me. Mainly because the girls were always expecting to buy their drinks for them, and if you didn't, the older guys would, and you would be spending the night alone. Gone was the time when I could hang out with teenagers. I was in a different league now, and there really was no point trying to play that game, because the women don't care about you at that age. Unless you got really blessed in the looks department, you're basically invisible in the club. Once women start seeing men as people to get drinks for and free food passes, the club becomes something else. It goes from being a place of enjoyment to a transaction-based service, with the same rules as outside the club. The woman starts gravitating towards the top % of men, and those with resources can buy her as many drinks as she wants. All women want in this environment is to exploit. You are a woman's ticket to a good time and her drive home. And this is all acceptable behavior. You have women coming at 2 in the morning and puking everywhere, and the cab drivers are just scared to pick these drunk women up. Cab drivers are poor men who are just trying to make a buck. The weekend is the time when they can afford to make the most money, but they stay away from all these women because they don't want someone puking in their backseat. It seems like everyone except for the woman affiliated with the nightclub in any way is getting the short end of the stick, while she is riding on everybody's favors and sympathy like a princess. Another problem for guys in the club is bouncers. Many women get in good with the bouncers and use them as their white knights. Some even date them to get them free access to the club. Women going in there manipulate bouncers to get in there quicker. They have their set of tricks to get into the club quicker and get shortcuts. Women pool these social resources as a group to get access to high-profile places. Once they're done exploiting the bouncers, they get in there and exploit the men. So basically, they're getting everything for free. Free entrance, free access and drinks, and free attention. If that's not enough reason for you to stay away from clubbing, then I don't know what is. As a red-pilled man, that should be enough reason for you to not join in this thing at all. Instead, approach and talk to women in an environment where you hold the power and the benefit. There's no point playing your skills in a field where women hold the power and you have everything to lose and a very tiny fractional chance of a reward for all your troubles. What's sad is most men here going to clubs only drink 1 drink or 2. Or maybe they have a few drinks at home because it's probably cheaper and they have to spend all their money on the woman wanting drinks. I felt the same way, obligated to buy drinks for the women. I personally think once you buy a woman a drink, you basically fail her test and lose all your self-respect. You notice all the men taking her out are never the ones buying her drinks. The only instance when you should buy a woman a drink is if you approach her yourself and want to make conversation. If she comes at you and asks for a drink, there's a 99% chance she just wants a freebie out of you. She is going to enjoy that drink and leave. Women complain about it when we say that. They say all men think about is sex. They want sex when we buy them a drink. She fails to mention that she uses the same social cues to buy drinks. She's going to sweeten herself up to the guy, maybe put her hand on his shoulder, sweet talk him. The guy thinks she's interested in him. She finishes her drink and leaves her hanging, and if the guy complains about it, she makes him out to be the bad guy. I remember this one Florida nightclub. There was a thong competition going on and a wet shirt contest. So these are a lot more fun. If you pick your clubs right, you can still have some fun. Clubs can be a lot of fun if you're still young, but what you shouldn't be doing at all is trying to find a girlfriend there. If women are going to clubs getting free drinks and getting favors from bouncers, you really think this is the type of woman you should be dating. You don't think they would be using you if you did that. Many of my friends used to date the girls they met in the clubs, and those were the worst relationships they ever had. If you're thinking of being a club promoter or running your own club to get famous and get some money in girls, don't even think about it. It's not worth it. Most of the club promoters I know lose all their money. Clubs are not like casinos where the house always wins. Instead, women are the ones who are always the winners in the clubs. That's it for today. I see you all tomorrow.